Celtic Football Club are one of only 5 clubs in the world to have won over 100 trophies. The club have 53 Scottish League Championships, 41 Scottish Cups and 21 Scottish League Cups to their name. And in 1967 they became the first club from the British Isles to win the European Cup. Since then the club have been in just one more European final, which they lost 3-2 in the 2003 UEFA Cup final to Porto in the city of Seville. In today's video I'll be taking over the Glasgow Giants for 5 seasons in FM24, aiming to not only reach a European final, but to bring European success and make Celtic a European force to be reckoned with. In season number 1 I was expected to win everything domestically and be competitive in the Champions League, and I already had the best staff in the division but needed a director of football and a technical director to help me along the way. The first team squad wasn't looking too shabby, with a couple of really good players coming through the development centre, and with a very healthy bank balance and £2.5 million in the transfer budget, I had room to improve the squad for the upcoming season. My transfer business started almost immediately as I sold Liam Scales to Aberdeen for £160,000. He was followed out the door by 32-year-old midfielder James McCarthy, who left for Saudi Arabia in a £600,000 deal. Director of football Matt Crocker had joined the club alongside Spanish technical director Steve Calzardi, and with my staff now firmly cemented as the best in the division, it was time to send out my scouts to find the best players I could to improve the squad. And the first man through the door was centre-back Malang Sarr, who joined from Chelsea on loan until the end of the season. He was closely followed by attacking midfielder Jesse Lingard, who had spent last season at Nottingham Forest and joined on a free transfer. The centre of midfield needed strengthening up, so I brought in Brazilian 23-year-old Gustavo Ansensao for $850,000. He was already a good Premiership player but had potential to be a leading one in the future. So with all my transfer business for this season complete, my tactics sorted out, and my assistant settling on his best 11, which included new signings Lingard and Sarr, I was now ready to simulate season number 1 to see how we got on. Season number 1 got off to a great start as we lifted the Premiership title, losing just 4 games across the season, finishing on 96 points, 2 points clear of bitter rivals Rangers. Highlights across the season included a 6-2 win and a 4-2 home win over the old enemy. That wasn't the only trophy win, as Matt O'Reilly scored the winner to lift the League Cup against Hearts, and we sealed the domestic treble, beating Dunfermline in the Scottish Cup final with a brace from new man Jesse Lingard. But what about the Champions League? Well, despite being drawn in a group which included Man City, Leipzig and Marseille, draws over Leipzig and Marseille at Celtic Park and a win away in France meant that despite being out of the Champions League, we now went into the Europa League playoff knockout round, where a 4-1 aggregate win over Portuguese side Braga meant we were heading to the last 16 of the Europa League, and a great 5-3 overall win over Brighton of the Premier League sent us to the quarter-finals, where after a 3-3 draw at Celtic Park we went away to Spain, and a 93rd minute winner from Lyle Abador sealed a 3-2 victory in a historic night in the city of Seville. This sent us into the semi-finals, and despite a 1-1 draw at home to a great Liverpool side, we were knocked out 3-1 on aggregates. 7 players had got into double figures across the season, with new man Lingard hitting 13 goals and 11 assists, and striker O hitting 20 goals in just 17 starts. David Turnbull was, however, our top scorer with 22 goals and 18 assists across the season from attacking midfield, but after refusing refusing to sign a new contract. He was heading to Saudi Arabia, so he was a player we would have to replace for the upcoming second season. But replacing him looked a lot easier, as I now had £26 million to spend, with £732,000 in the wage budget for season number 2. And I got straight into spending the transfer budget, as I made Malang Sarr my first signing of the summer in a £12 million deal from Chelsea after impressing last season on loan. He was closely followed by David Turnbull's replacement Abdülkadir Ömür, who joined from Turkish side Trabzonspor in another £12 million deal. And I got a great deal for the club, as I signed young fullback Brandon Williams on a free transfer, made all the more sweeter as he turned down an offer from rivals Rangers. Striker Ibrahim Osman looked way too good to turn down, so I brought him in from Nordsjælland in a £1.9 million deal. And he was closely followed by centre-back Lloyd Kelly, who joined from Bournemouth on a free transfer as backup. Defensive midfielder Tomoki Iwata was never going to get game time here, so I sold him to Hibs for £1.8 million before signing new first-choice Peruvian goalkeeper Renato Solis in a £325,000 deal. And a few more players left the club, with now Rocky heading to Angers for £575,000. Gustavo Asensio, who I signed last season, failed to make an impact, so I sold him to Saudi Arabia for £2 million. And 3 players went out on loan, with Shaw, Tilio and Palmer heading out of the club until the end of the season. Overall, I was delighted with the summer's business, as Solis, Sarr and Abdülkadir went straight into the first team, and with new players Kelly, Osman and Brandon Williams on the bench alongside experience like Lingard, I was now ready to simulate season number 2. The Celtic board were very generous in season number 2's January window, as they injected £40 million into the club. I spent £9 million of this on left back Ian Matson, who joined from Chelsea in a £9 million deal, and he was joined by attacking midfielder Facundo Torres, who joined from Orlando City in a £10 million move. This helped us to our second cinch Premiership title of this rebuild, as we lost just one game throughout the season and finished 6 points ahead of rivals Rangers. We also clinched our second treble in 2 seasons, as we beat Hearts in the League Cup final, and we lifted the Scottish Cup once again with a winner from Ömür against Aberdeen in the final. But it was disappointment in Europe, as we lost the Champions League knockout playoff round, losing 4-2 to Juventus on aggregate. From an attacking point of view, it was a great season from the lads, with no less than 6 players hitting double figures, with striker O hitting 29 goals in 36 starts, and the almost £15 million in the transfer budget had me excited for season number 3. I added to the transfer budget as I sold Bernarbi, Carter Vickers and right back Alistair Johnson, who all joined Saudi Arabian clubs for a combined fee of £51 million. And with Lewis Palmer and Scott Bain both heading out the door, it was now time to strengthen the squad. I started by bringing in Scottish midfielder Andy Irving from West Ham, who would also help fill my homegrown status for the Champions League. Next through the door was midfielder Tommy Doyle, who joined from Manchester City on a free transfer. And I spent big money on Alistair Johnston's replacement, as Arnau Martinez joined from Girona for £45 million. Centre-back Mika Marmol joined from Las Palmas for 18, and Igor Okbu joined from Slavia Prague in a £9 million deal. Experienced German goalkeeper Robin Zenter joined from Mainz on a free transfer. And I wrapped up my summer business for season number 3 as I brought in Canadian striker Jonathan David in from Lille after his contract had ran down. So with my business done and David, Marmol, Okbu and Martinez all going into my starting 11, it was now time to simulate season number 3. The Celtic board once again supporting me in the transfer market as they handed me 35 million to spend in the January of season number 3. And just one player joined the club with 23 million going on Moroccan attacking midfielder Bilal Al-Khanous, who joined from Genk in Belgium. But there was one player leaving in the January window as 31-year-old striker Kyogo joined Al Fateh in Saudi Arabia in a £10 million move. And season number 3 Scottish Premiership campaign was our greatest of this rebuild to date, as we went through the season invincible, winning 33 of our 38 games, drawing 5 and losing 0, scoring a huge 126 goals along the way and amassing a massive 104 points, finishing 25 points clear of second place Rangers. And it was a familiar story as we won the League Cup once again, beating Hearts in the final 4-1 at Hampden Park. And we finished the season off by winning another treble as we beat Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup final, with Lingard grabbing 2 goals in his final game for the club. But could my Celtic team better last season's Champions League performance, where we were defeated by Juventus in the knockout playoff round, while thrashings by Manchester City and Barcelona brought us down to earth? Draws against Bodo Glimt and Fenerbahce gave us a glimmer of hope, and great wins against Atletico Madrid, Olympiacos, Manchester United and Real Betis meant that we were heading for the knockout playoff round of the Champions League for the second season in a row, where we faced, you guessed it, Juventus for the second season in a row. And after drawing 1-1 in Turin, we brought them back to Celtic Park, where we had the game of our lives and went through, winning 5-4 on aggregate. And You'll Never Walk Alone could be heard all around Europe as we faced Liverpool in the last 16, losing 2-1 in a tight game in the first leg at Celtic Park. But the second leg wasn't so close as we were blown away 3-0 at Anfield, sending us crashing out of the Champions League. Europe was always going to be a tough ask, but despite this we had a great season with 7 of the squad hitting double figures, with striker O once again top scorer with 32 goals across the season. Season number 4 saw the Celtic board give me just under £8 million to spend, and with that kind of money it was going to be really difficult to strengthen the squad I had already built. But our youth facilities were really starting to improve, and we had some real great talents coming through the development centre. So we waved goodbye to Jesse Lingard, who left for Slovan Bratislava on a free transfer, and it was also farewell to Kobayashi, who left for Japan in a £600,000 move. He was followed out of the door by Ibrahim Osman, Haksabanovic and midfielder Matt O'Reilly, who all left for Saudi Arabia for combined fees of £35 million. 11 million of our budget went on goalkeeper Nico Mantle, who joined from Red Bull Salzburg, and I managed to get a great signing into the club as midfielder Tom Krause joined from Mainz for £34 million. I wrapped the summer business up for season number 4 as I grabbed Jadon Sancho and striker Boulaye Dia on free transfers, which made not only the starting 11 much stronger but the squad as a whole, and I was now ready to simulate season number 4. Now the start of season number 4 was rudely interrupted as Saudi Arabian side Al Hilal swooped in and signed centre-back Micah Marmel for his release clause of £24.5 million. Not to worry though, as I brought in David Affengruber, who came from Sturm Graz for £9 million, and I also managed to get Scottish right back Calvin Ramsey on loan from Liverpool until the end of the season. And it was another great season in the Scottish Premiership for my Celtic side as we won the league, losing just 2 games all season and amassing a huge 102 points. Our closest rivals were second place Hibernian, who finished 25 points behind us and were helped by the 28 goals from Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But Glasgow rivals Rangers were nowhere to be seen this season as they finished a massive 37 points behind us. And it was the same old story in the League Cup as we beat St Mirren in the final at Hampden Park 3-0. And as you've probably already guessed, it was season 4, treble number 4, as we beat Hibs in the Scottish Cup final 6-3 at the end of the season. As for the Champions League, losses against Real Madrid and Arsenal were to be expected in the league phase, but wins against Trabzonspor, Atletico Madrid, Porto, and a great win against Barcelona at Celtic Park made sure we went into the knockout playoff round once again, where we were drawn against German side Bayer Leverkusen, and after a 3-3 draw in Germany, we turned it on at Celtic Park, winning the return leg 3-0. After the Leverkusen result, I started to dream, but after being drawn against Arsenal in the round of 16, we lost the home leg 1-0, meaning we had it all to do at the Emirates, where despite a valiant effort, we could only manage a 1-1 draw, and we were once again knocked out of the Champions League. Despite the disappointment of Europe, it had been a fantastic effort from all the players this season, with no less than 9 getting into double figures, with standout performances from Facundo Torres, who hit 17 goals and 24 assists throughout the season, capped off by Jonathan David's 30 goals in 42 games. But I was now into my final season at Celtic, and the board had given me almost £11 million to strengthen my squad. A squad that was already looking very good, so I'd have to see what magic I could work in this final transfer window of this rebuild. I managed to do a lot of business as I went into this final season, as Ideguchi left for Basel for £600,000, and he was joined out of the door by centre-back Larga Bielke, who joined Rapid Bucharest for £750,000. Scottish centre-back Stephen Walsh also left the club, going to Poland in a £375,000 move. And despite me wanting to keep Lloyd Kelly, he didn't want to sign a new deal, so left on a free transfer for Saudi Arabia. I did bring some good money into the club to add to my transfer budget, as Dyson Maida left for Besiktas in Turkey for £8 million. But the biggest transfer out of the club this summer was Rio Hatate, who went to Saudi Arabia for £18.5 million. So I now had a decent amount of money to strengthen my squad for this final season, and Scottish right back Nathan Patterson was the first through the door, as he joined from Everton for £25 million. And I brought a first class goalkeeper in, as Andriy Lunin joined from Espanyol for £22 million. Central midfielder Jurisic was one for the future, but he was too good to turn down in a £4 million move from Mainz. And to wrap my business up, I couldn't believe my luck, as Reece Nelson's contract had ran down at Arsenal, so I brought him in on a free transfer. So my squad looked really strong for this final season, and I felt like we were now ready to have a real crack at the Champions League. Tommy Doyle had been moved to a central midfielding attacking role, which I felt really suited his play, and I was now ready to simulate this final season of this rebuild. While we once again ended up Scottish Premiership champions, as we went through the season invincible for the second time of this rebuild. We won 33 games, drawing just 5, and finished the season on 104 points, 29 points clear of second place Hibs. We scored a huge 126 goals and conceded just 21 throughout the season. And despite having Tom Krause sent off in the final of the League Cup against Rangers, we still managed to beat the old enemy 4-0 to lift the Scottish League Cup, and we made it 5 domestic trebles in a row as we beat Ayr United 10-0 in the Scottish Cup final at Hampden Park. But the aim of this rebuild was to bring European success to the Glasgow Giants, and I had just one more chance to do that. So how did our final Champions League campaign go? Well, the league phase saw us lose 1 game away at Newcastle United 2-1. But great draws away at Villarreal and Manchester City, and wins against Anderlecht, AC Milan, Juventus, Malmo and Leverkusen meant that we went straight through to the knockout rounds with no playoff round needed this season. The round of 16 saw us drawn against Inter, and after a great 2-1 win at the San Siro, we just needed to hold on at Celtic Park. However, we did much better than hold on, as we blew the Italian side away 5-2 at Celtic Park to go into the quarter-final, where we would face German giants Borussia Dortmund. And despite a great 2-0 win at home where we blew the German side away, it was going to be a really tough second leg where we would have to hold on to go through to the semi-final. And things got tougher as the home side took the lead. Tommy Doyle was then sent off for a second yellow card offence, but my Celtic side battled through and even equalised to send us into the Champions League semi-final, where we would face English Premier League side Arsenal, who had knocked us out of the competition last season, where after losing the game 2-1 at half time, we managed to pull it back to earn a 3-3 draw to take us into the away tie. Nobody was telling Jonathan David just how tough a game it was as he waltzed through the Arsenal defence to score one of the goals of the season, which took us to the Champions League final. The final in Vienna, Austria would see us come up against PSG's team of superstars, which included Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. However, we took the lead in the 10th minute through Jonathan David. We were soon brought back down to earth as Vinicius Jr. equalised in the 16th, and when Mbappe scored in the 26th minute, it sent us into the break 2-1 down. It looked to be all but over when Marquinhos made it 3-1 for the French side in the 58th minute from a corner. But a Jadon Sancho goal in the 67th minute had us dreaming of a fight back, and we were right to dream as an 84th minute header from Jonathan David made the scores 3-3. And with 89 minutes on the clock, my Celtic side completed the most unlikely comeback as Lyle Abadar scored the winner to lift the European Champions League. So my Celtic side had done what no other Celtic side had done since 1967 as they lifted the European Cup. The whole squad had a great season, with 9 players hitting double figures, with standout performances from Jadon Sancho, who hit 23 goals and 18 assists, midfielder Tommy Doyle, who hit 26 goals with 15 assists, and striker Jonathan David, who had hit a massive 36 goals in just 39 starts across the season. This Celtic side would go down in history alongside the Lisbon Lions of 1967, and at the end of this rebuild I had achieved what I set out to, as I made Celtic a European force to be reckoned with. So everybody, Happy New Year, thanks for watching the video. If you've watched and you're not subscribed, please consider doing that, hit that like button, and I'll see you all in the next one.